Now 6 on WKYT this morning. It's a WKYT First Alert Severe Weather Day. We'll look at what damage storms left behind just ahead. For the first time, the Zika virus that's spreading across Latin America and the Caribbean has arrived in the United States. And a Central Kentucky priest hopes his generous gift will bring someone good fortune. That's ahead on WKYT this morning.
This is WKYT This Morning.
Good Saturday morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Michelle Chamberlain. Sean Moody is off this weekend, but Mike Linden is here and he's talking about today's First Alert Severe Weather Day. Mike?
Well, Michelle, we are tracking additional rounds of rainfall that could cause some major headaches here in the bluegrass. We're looking at flash flooding being number one as far as what we could get out of these showers and storms. Right now, it's mainly southeastern Kentucky, as we can see the active weather coming in from the south and making for some thunderstorms to kick off our Saturday. Again, mainly for the southeastern zones. We're looking at Harlan County, Perry County, and you can see this moving through Knox and Clay counties and moving pretty much right along the mountains. We look a little bit further north, though, close to the Mountain Parkway, close to the Beattyville area, the Breathitt County area. We can see those storms tracking eastward, again, working their way right on toward the mountains. But we are just going to continue to see active weather today with low pressure parked to our north and a stationary front off to our west, meaning that the warm and the cooler air masses are not going anywhere. They're stationary, and it's for that reason that storms do seem likely to continue through our Saturday. Now, I'll be back in about 10 minutes to track the flash flooding threat into the afternoon. I'll take you hour by hour and show you where those storms will be.
It looks like Madison County was one of the areas hit hard by flash flooding. The county's rescue squad tells us part of Crutcher Pike outside of Richmond was washed away, and flash floods also hit other areas. The county's rescue squad said they received high waters. They says there was someone on the home when they saw the rescue squad.
We don't drive through running water or moving water, and good lesson for the kids to see, because they say there's a refrigerator at the bottom of my driveway right now in the creek at Crutcher Creek, and the road is totally crumbled.
The water also made parts of nearby Takes Creek Road in Madison County impassable. The county's rescue squad says one man was stranded at his home because high water washed out the bridge between his home and the road. Flash floods also covered roads in parts of Montgomery County. Emergency crews had to rescue one person when his car got stuck in high water on Kidville Road. They say they put a vest on him and waded through waist-deep water to get him to safety.
So he was kind of shaken up, weakened from having to be in the water so long, but he just misjudged the water and drove into it and got stranded.
The rescue in Montgomery County is an example of how dangerous flash flooding can be. 6 inches of water will reach the bottom of most cars, and they can float in a foot of water. Water flowing at 7 miles per hour has the same force as air blowing at 200 miles per hour. A car can be swept away in seconds. Remember, we can help you track storms with the WKYT Weather Plus traffic app. You can download it for free in the app or Google Play stores. New on WKYT this morning, Kentucky State Police have made a second arrest in connection to a double murder in 2 central Kentucky counties. Police arrested Devontae Hall in Montgomery County, Ohio. He's facing a charge of aggravated robbery out of Dayton. He's also being detained there for Kentucky State Police. Now, police say back in June they found Devin Payton dead in Montgomery County and Brandy Davidson dead in Wolfe County. They say both murders are connected, but they haven't said what led to them. In Whitley County, police have charged a 13-year-old girl after they say she attacked her great-grandmother over an iPad. The Whitley County Sheriff's Office has charged the teenager with assault. Investigators say her great-grandmother tried to take the iPad away from her for the night, but they say the teenager began beating the woman, causing head and neck injuries. Neighbors say the great-grandmother was raising the girl.
I was really shocked to see that she would disrespect her family like that.
Police say the great-grandmother was taken to UK hospital but has since been released. They say the teenager is at a juvenile detention center. For the first time, the Zika virus that's spreading across Latin America and the Caribbean has arrived in the United States through infected mosquitoes. David Bignog reports.
10 teams from the Florida Department of Public Health went door to door in a North Miami neighborhood Friday to warn people about the Zika virus and to test them to determine if there are more cases. Florida's governor confirmed Friday 3 men and 1 woman likely contracted the virus through mosquito bites in early July, got sick the next week, and were diagnosed a few days later. Interviews with patients and their friends ruled out travel and sex as a means of transmission. The patients all worked within a 1-mile area called Wynwood. Disease detectives have tested more than 19,000 mosquitoes in the area and stepped up efforts to kill them. Health officials do not expect that this virus is going to become widespread. Instead, they believe we may see small outbreaks, just like the one here in Miami.
We don't have in the continental U.S., in most places, a conducive environment for widespread transmission.
Still, residents and tourists in this artsy area are concerned.
That's really terrible news that it's coming so close to home.
Zika is linked to a birth defect. It causes babies to be born with an abnormally small head. Health officials urge pregnant women and those planning to become pregnant to avoid mosquito bites by wearing long sleeves, using insect repellent, and staying inside. David Begno, CBS News, Miami.
The mosquito species that carry Zika is found in 30 U.S. states. More than 1,600 people in the United States have been infected with the Zika virus. A Central Kentucky priest hopes his generous gift will bring someone good fortune. Father Jim Schitzko brought 100 Powerball tickets and gave them out to strangers in the Lexington area. Tonight's Powerball jackpot is $478 million, and he says he wanted to do something different to give back to the community.
The ways that I may give, or the ways that I may choose to be kind, may be different from your ways, because we're all different people. And it's all right, to realize that there are some who go outside of the regular box and norms and can still get good things accomplished.
Father Jim also says this is a way for him to give back what he's received from others. There's plenty of activities going on this weekend. Here's a look at some of what's happening today. It's time for First Vineyard's annual Summer Craft Fair. The fair will feature woodworkers, jewelry makers, and even cheese crafters. It all starts at 10 o'clock this morning at First Vineyard in Nicholasville. It's free to get in, and there will be food and drinks on site. You can go back in time and take your family on a dinosaur adventure. Jurassic Quest is here in Lexington, and they've got a brand new exhibit featuring new dinosaur species, activities, and rides. The quest is going on at Heritage Hall in the Lexington Convention Center from 9 this morning till 8 o'clock tonight. Admission ranges from $15 to $24. Today is the last day for Lexington's Restaurant Week. More than 36 local restaurants are offering special menus at a reduced cost. And this year, $1 of every special meal goes to LexArts. So get out and enjoy all these wonderful restaurants we have here in Lexington. WKYT This Morning is just getting started. A new study suggests that more red light cameras could help save lives. A closer look still ahead on WKYT This Morning. And we'll look at how one zoo celebrated a panda's birthday. That's coming up after Mike's forecast.
And coming up, I'll take a look across the state of Kentucky, and we'll cover where we'll find some storms which could lead to potential flash flooding. It's a WKYT First Alert Severe Weather Day. We'll be right back. It is a WKYT First Alert Severe Weather Day, and I'm tracking flash flooding as we work our way through our Saturday. Now, we're not seeing widespread storms this morning, but let's take a look at what we are seeing this morning, and that is a cluster of storms along the southeastern zone of the Bluegrass. Notice that we are finding this moving west to east, essentially right along the mountain chain, looking toward Harlan and Perry County. But let's look closer at what we're finding right along the Clay and Leslie line, moving into Hyden. We are tracking some heavier rainfall. When you start to see the yellows and the oranges or even the reds, those are the heavy downpours within these storms. We look north to Breathitt County. This is the largest storm that we're seeing this morning in all of the state. This is getting ready to move into Jackson. So if you live nearby, just get ready for the noise. It is on the way. We look to the north, close to the Mountain Parkway. Notice the Flat Gap area here in Johnson County, where a year ago saw some devastating flooding. We are looking at additional heavy rainfall moving into the area. Now, nothing that's going to pack the the punch like what we saw a year ago in Johnson County, but nonetheless, still something to pique your interest when we do see those storms tracking across the bluegrass. Now, we look at the big picture here. Low pressure still parked to our north and a stationary front coming off of the backside of it. What that means is that the warm air from the south and the cooler air from the north, they're fighting for position, but neither is strong enough to win. So that's why we're finding this storm setup staying with us through our weekend. Now, the biggest player out of all of this when we're talking active weather is the flooding. High winds certainly possible with these storms, but as far as hail or even tornadoes, those are pretty low on the severe impact scale here. Flooding easily number one with what we'll find throughout our weekend. Now let's take you hour by hour and find what we'll see into our afternoon today. Through the morning hours, really not too much. We'll see some hit or miss storms, but things do seem to get a little more organized as we get into our afternoon. This is 2 o'clock. Notice still finding the heavy rain along the southeastern mountains. But look at the rest of the state, seemingly coming out of nothing, right? There's the impact of that stationary front. With the air masses fighting for position, we'll see those pop-up storms as we get into our afternoon. Those will likely stay with us into the evening hours, and this is where the flash flooding comes into play. If we see rainfall and a decent amount of it over one particular area in a short period of time, well, there's how you get flash flooding. Not to mention that the ground is soaking wet. It's like pouring additional water on a wet sponge. It just has nowhere else to go. We go into Sunday afternoon, still looking at a very similar setup, and Monday is more of it, if not heavier rainfall as we get into the start of our work week. This is Monday afternoon right around 4 or 5 o'clock. Central Kentucky getting ready to see a lot more rainfall for then and pushing into the evening hours too. So of course, remember, if you do see some flash flooding near where you live, get to higher ground and never attempt to drive through it. It's never a good idea. No matter what you drive, it only takes 1 foot of water to pick up your tires and take your car along with it. Not fun. You don't want to put yourself in that position. So don't attempt to drive around a barricade. Just find an alternate route to get to where you need to go. Now, looking at our 7-day forecast here, not exactly the prettiest. Remember, it is the summer. Thunderstorms certainly likely to feature, but as far as what we'll get out of these thunderstorms, that is the big concern. As I mentioned, with an already wet ground, any additional rainfall, Michelle, is just not going to be good for drivers out there. So if you happen to live also near a small creek or stream, just keep your eye on it just in case, because I'm sure some folks in Madison County, like yesterday, were watching those small creeks and streams, and then all of a sudden, there's your flash
They just
flooding.
rise, and it's really scary. You got to be careful out there.
Most definitely.
Okay, so on this Saturday morning, of course, we have some cute animal video for you.
Go figure.
I know, right?
Go figure.
Here's one of a birthday celebration for a giant panda.
Now, this panda is known as Mr. Wu. He's 4 years old at the San Diego Zoo, but of course, zookeepers there had a little surprise for him. Not ice cream cake, but an ice cake for the giant panda. And this is pretty good. Apples, yams, and some bamboo sticks as candles. And they also filled his exhibit there with some presents, as I'm sure he enjoyed. And they say it helps keep him active and stimulated, giving him new things to do while hanging out in the exhibit.
And it's healthy to boot. I bet this is exciting for you. You should do one of these cakes on your Facebook Live cooking video segments.
I guess. I mean, he's living the life, right?
Yeah,
just hanging
right?
out, getting presents and eating all day. I mean, that's the life for anybody.
That's all we ever want, right?
Most definitely.
Thanks, Mike. When WKYT This Morning returns, we're looking at how red light cameras can help keep roads safe. And that story when we come back. But before we go, tonight's Powerball jackpot is $478 million. And Tuesday night's Mega Millions jackpot, $25 million. We'll be right back. Welcome back to WKYT This Morning. Some cities across the country use red light cameras. They take pictures of cars running red lights and can help police issue tickets. Some people aren't a fan of the cameras, but they can help keep the roads safe. Carter Evans has the story.
The violent crashes caused by red light runners kill more than 700 people a year, lives that could be saved if there were more red light cameras, according to a new study.
Motor vehicle crashes don't have to be killing and injuring so many people.
Adrian Lund is president of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety.
When people know that there's a good chance of getting a ticket for running the light, they're more likely to be paying attention.
But after the cameras were the target of complaints, including that their primary purpose was to raise revenue, more than 150 cities removed them. The Insurance Institute's latest study suggests that might have been a mistake. It looked at 14 of those cities and found a 30% increase in the rate of fatal accidents at the intersections where the cameras once were. But there's still evidence the cameras don't always work properly.
I was surprised, especially when the picture shows the car not moving.
Jessica Aguilera's $490 red light ticket was thrown out because she did not violate the law.
Do you think it's possible that these cameras could save lives?
Anything's possible.
Dennis Zine, a Los Angeles police motor officer turned city councilman, initially supported red light cameras, but he says they weren't necessarily preventing reckless driving, so the city turned them off.
The problem with this situation was inordinate number of people being cited for a right turn after a stop on the red light, not people blazing through.
Some of the methods the Insurance Institute uses to study red light cameras have been criticized in the past. There is also evidence that these cameras can actually increase accidents, especially rear-end collisions. Carter Evans, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Your time is 6:21. There's still more to come this morning on WKYT. Sports is next.
Our first alert severe weather day continues here into the weekend, and we are tracking additional potential for flash flooding. Right now, our eyes are on southeastern Kentucky, watching thunderstorms moving their way across the southeastern mountains. Let's take a closer look at what we're seeing this morning. Right now, moving into the Leslie County area close to Hyden is a rather large thunderstorm. When you see the orange and the yellows and the reds, that's some heavy rainfall. This isn't really packing a lot of lightning, but it certainly is going to get wet this morning. How about in Jackson and Breathitt County? Getting wet this morning. This seems to be our largest storm out there early on. Things are going to get a little more active as we head into our afternoon, so this is just the beginning of it. We look at Morgan, Magoffin, and Johnson counties now moving eastward toward the Paintsville area. We are finding additional heavy rainfall there. Again, when you see these deeper red colors, those indicate the stronger thunderstorms and at least the heavier rainfall. Now, this is all part of a pretty large system here that actually has its home close to the Great Lakes. But with this front coming off the backside of it, we're just going to continue to see active weather east of that front. And guess what's east of that front? The state of Kentucky. We will continue to see more active weather as our day rolls on. Speaking of which, into our afternoon daytime highs, right around, if not a little bit below normal. That's because of those thick clouds. But we're really keying in on the midday portion of our Saturday. It's at that point that thunderstorms do seem to have a bit of a more widespread look, and that, of course, could lead to flash flooding. Keep it tuned right here on WKYT and WKYT.com all day for updates. Brian Milam is back in next with an update on sports.
Are the Cats ready to make a move up this fall and go to a bowl game for the first time since 2010? Mark Stoops and his team would like nothing better. Stoops talked about it yesterday at the UK kickoff luncheon, which was held for the first time at Commonwealth Stadium. Stoops has never talked numbers when it comes to wins, but from what he has seen so far, he said his team has given itself the opportunity.
They did what they had to do in the winter, in our fourth quarter program, in spring practice, and we've had a great summer. That's a start to this season. Without that, you have no chance. By doing all those things, doing them as hard as we can, with putting as much into it as we can, it gives us an opportunity. We have an opportunity to go out and compete and play at a high level. I'm not making any predictions, but I like what we've done so far, and we've got a lot of work to do.
The Cincinnati Bengals opening their Cincinnati training camp yesterday. Former EKU tight end Matt Lingle hopeful of winning a spot on the roster. Lingle signed as a free agent with Cincinnati last season, spending his rookie year on the practice squad. He's a big, strong guy the Bengals have high hopes for.
We have high hopes for Matt. You know, we really do. We really have high hopes, and he's one of those guys who you get excited to have the opportunity to play in the preseason and prove that he belongs the opportunity. He deserves an opportunity to stay here.
To high school football, the Paris Greyhounds enjoyed its first undefeated season in decades. Back in at quarterback for the Hounds is Aaron Magger. The senior has started the majority of his 4 years, and he brings with him poise and precision.
Aaron, he started as a freshman for me, so this is his healthy year this year, so I don't think it'll be too much of a load for him because he's played a lot of varsity ball.
I think the game will be a little bit slower for me. Easier to read the defense, and it'll just come more easy to me. Well, I think this year we're going to throw the ball a little bit more. We got a pretty good receiver in Jacoby Wells, and I think we'll just try as hard as we can.
That is all you could ask for. Less than 3 weeks to the start of the season. That's a look at sports. Have a great weekend.
Now at 6:30 on WKYT this morning, it's a WKYT First Alert Severe Weather Day. We're looking at what damage storms are leaving behind just ahead. Plus, the search for a Clay County man wanted for a string of crimes in eastern Kentucky is still going on this morning. And both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are on the campaign trail. We'll have the latest from both campaigns ahead on WKYT this morning.
This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning to you. Happy Saturday, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Michelle Chamberlain. Sean Moody is off this weekend, and it's a WKYT First Alert Severe Weather Day. Mike Linden is here taking a look at today's forecast. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Michelle. The name of the game is flash flooding today. With all of the rain that we have seen the past few days, anything else could certainly lead to some local high water issues. We're looking right now at southeastern Kentucky as the area where we're finding the heavy rain. Pretty much right along the southeastern mountains is where we're finding those storms. We key in, though, right now on a few areas finding the heaviest rainfall, that being Leslie County, Hyden tracking right now some heavy rain. We look to the north, Breathitt County and the city of Jackson also getting wet this morning. And if we continue to move a bit more north, now pushing into the Johnson County area is yet another storm. When you start to see the yellows and the oranges popping up on radar, that does indicate some heavy downpours. Right now we can see that one moving away from Morgan and Magoffin counties and moving into Johnson County. We take a wider look at things, and this low pressure has a home in the Great Lakes area, but this stationary front coming from the south of it is just indicating that we are in store for active weather staying in place, hence the name stationary front. And it has certainly been wet all this week here in the Bluegrass. We've seen some pretty impressive rainfall totals. When you see the purples and the reds, those are up near about 6 inches of rain, and we've seen quite a few of them. So again, any additional rainfall could cause for some major headaches. So of course, coming up in about 10 minutes, I'll continue to track this flash flood threat. I'll put the day in motion and show you hour by hour where those storms will be. Michelle?
Thank you, Mike. It looks like Madison County was one of the areas hit hard by flash flooding. The county's rescue squad tells us part of Crutcher Pike outside of Richmond was washed away by high water. The water also made parts of nearby Takes Creek Road impassable. WKYT's Mike Byers live in Madison County with a look at storm damage in that county. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Michelle. I'm in Richmond, and I was along Crutcher Pike earlier, but the lack of cell service is allowing us to go live from there. So I'm along Tates Creek Road right now, and some word of advice this morning: if you're going to travel Tates Creek Road from Goggins Lane to Carver's Ferry Road, use caution because there was a lot of debris and other substances on the road left over from last night's flash flooding. So if you're going to travel Tates Creek Road to Goggins Lane all the way to Carver's Ferry Road, just use caution this morning. Lots of debris on the road. As of last night, though, parts of Crutcher Pike was covered in water, and still appears to be the case this morning. High water covered parts of Tates Creek Road between Richmond and Valley View as well. The rescue squad says as of last night, parts of Tates Creek Road were still impassable. They say one man was stranded in his home because of the flooding after high water washed out a bridge between his home and the main road. Now, at last check, the rescue squad says no injuries were reported due to flash flooding. Live in Madison County, Mike Byer, WKYT.
Thank you, Mike. New this morning, Lexington police say a seatbelt saved a woman's life. The crash happened on Richmond Road and Yorkshire Boulevard around 12:30 last night. Police say the woman was driving fast when she hit a light pole and then flipped her car. We're told she was upside down, but her seatbelt saved her life. She was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police tell us alcohol may have played a factor in the crash. Part of southbound Interstate 75 in Whitley County is back open this morning after a crash. It happened around mile marker 19 near Williamsburg. Police say a tractor trailer and a truck pulling a trailer collided. There's no word on any injuries. Also new this morning, officers in Whitley County say a body has been found. The sheriff department says the body was found in the Bee Creek area yesterday. They think the remains are from a female and have sent them to Frankfort for autopsy. Police are still trying to track down a man accused of going on a crime spree in 4 eastern Kentucky counties. The Clay County Sheriff says the search for Tim Lawson started with a probation violation. Since then, the sheriff says Lawson has stolen nearly a dozen cars, amongst other crimes. During one of those thefts, a witness tells us his mom shot her gun at Lawson several times, but Lawson grabbed the gun away from her.
He held her at gunpoint and asked us for her keys, food, and pop, and not to call the law, and that he'll leave.
Investigators say Lawson is armed with guns, and they think he's committing crimes to feed a drug addiction. While they think he's acting alone, they say people may be giving him rides and helping him out along the way. New this morning, we're hearing from Lawson's family in Clay County. They say the last week has been a nightmare for them, and Lawson's mother says she feels so sorry for the people he has robbed. She wants to see him caught as soon as possible.
I want to see it behind bars because then he might be able to come back to his right mind off the drugs.
I'd rather go see him in a jail cell than go to a funeral home and look down at him.
Police say if you see Lawson, do not approach him, but call 911 immediately. They say he is armed and dangerous. A state judge has temporarily blocked Governor Bevin's executive order that replaced the University of Louisville Board of Trustees. It's a victory for Attorney General Andy Beshear, who sued the governor. The judge's ruling strips the new U of L board of its authority until that lawsuit can be resolved. But it appears an agreement for U of L President James Ramsey to resign with $700 pay will still stand. The governor's office thinks the judge's ruling will be reversed on appeal, but Beshear disagrees.
It's not political, it's not partisan, and it's not personal. It's my duty. It's my duty to enforce the law. It's my duty to uphold the Constitution.
In a statement, the governor's office accused Beshear of trying to protect the old status quo, and the governor suggested Beshear step aside or help him clean up state government. After giving her acceptance speech at the Democratic National Convention, Hillary Clinton went back on the campaign trail with running mate Tim Kaine. But Donald Trump says he wasn't impressed with Clinton's speech. Weijia Zhang has the latest from both campaigns.
Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton and running mate Tim Kaine hit the road Friday, kicking off a 3-day tour in the Rust Belt, promising to create and keep jobs in the United States.
We're going to make big investments in infrastructure, advanced manufacturing, clean energy technology.
Clinton also took a swipe at her Republican rival, Donald Trump.
The only thing he makes in America are bankruptcies.
Late Friday, Clinton's camp confirmed a computer system used by the campaign was hacked in the larger breach targeting the Democratic National Committee. Clinton and Kaine are energized after the Democratic National Convention that ended Thursday here in Philadelphia, which drew more overall viewers than the Republican convention the week before. But Trump bragged to an audience in Colorado Springs that television ratings show more people watched his acceptance speech than Clinton's. He offered his own rating on that.
I watched her last night giving a speech that was so average.
A seemingly scattered Trump jumped from topic to topic, but made one thing clear.
Just remember this, Trump is going to be no more Mr. Nice Guy.
The candidates have 100 days to win over voters before the election. Weijia Zhang, CBS News, Philadelphia.
And as for that computer hack, a Clinton campaign spokesman said a review by outside cybersecurity experts found no evidence that the campaign's internal systems had been compromised. We have some good news to pass along this morning. A Central Kentucky woman injured in a cycling accident in France is slowly improving. In a Facebook post, former state auditor Bob Babbage says his wife Laura has gone from unconscious to conscious. 9 days ago, Laura suffered a head injury while riding a bike in a competition that ran in conjunction with the Tour de France. She was transferred from a hospital in France to a neurosurgery trauma unit at UK Hospital earlier this week. Babbage adds Laura is responding to simple commands. Doctors will do more analysis of Laura's injury this weekend and next week. There are plenty of activities going on this weekend. Here's a look at some of what's happening today. The first day of school is just around the corner. Can you believe it? And today's back-to-school rallies will help make sure thousands of kids have school supplies. Registration is from 9 to 11 o'clock this morning. Backpacks will be given out at noon. Then there's a pool party at Douglas Park from 1 to 4. We've got the list of rally locations on WKYT.com. Today we're celebrating horses. It's hats off to Kentucky Horse Industry Day. You and your family can get into the Kentucky Horse Park for free. There will be plenty of opportunities to learn about horses and what they do for our state. There's also free pony rides and activities for kids. It all starts at 4 o'clock this afternoon. And you can help the University of Kentucky Police Department raise money for the Special Olympics Kentucky. The police are hosting Cops on Donut shops at the Krispy Kreme on Richmond Road this morning. They're already out there, and they'll stay there till 11 o'clock. Sounds good to me. Your time is 6:40 on this Saturday morning. There's still plenty ahead on WKYT. We'll take a look at a very special tea party between an officer and a girl he saved. That's ahead after Mike's forecast.
Our first alert severe weather day rolls on. I'm tracking storms which right now are somewhat scattered, but later this afternoon could become problematic. Coming up, I'll break down the flooding threat and show you where those storms will be. Our first alert severe weather day continues on here into the weekend as flash flooding remains #1 when we're talking about threats over the course of this weekend. Right now, storms continuing to work their way through the southeastern mountains. This isn't widespread, but if you do see a storm overview, we're looking at a heavy amount of rainfall in a short period of time. That's what Whitley and McCreary counties are starting to see right now. We look toward the Williamsburg area. Now moving in from Tennessee is some heavier rainfall. We zip to the north, and speaking of zipping, this storm has moved its way through Breathitt County rather quickly through the Jackson area. That's how these storms will be. They'll be moving pretty quickly, but dropping a lot of rain in the process. We look at Johnson County. Of course, Flat Gap a year ago saw devastating flash flooding. It doesn't look like that certainly will be the case this morning, but at least more heavy rainfall. The folks in Flat Gap know what to do. They know not to drive through standing water, and you should do the same as well if you see local flash flooding near you. Now, this is all part of a very large low-pressure system that's actually parked over the Great Lakes in northern Ohio. But what's key is this front coming off of the backside of it, a stationary front. What that means is that the warm air and the cool air are struggling for position, but neither is strong enough to win. That's where we're finding these storms here in the bluegrass, and that's why we'll continue to see them as well. They'll remain stationary right on top of the Commonwealth. Now, we have seen quite a bit of rainfall, and again, a good reason why is because these storms have nowhere to go but right on top of us. We're seeing 4 to even 6 inches of rainfall in some central Kentucky spots. Of course, you saw in Madison County some pretty bad flash flooding yesterday, and that happened rather quickly, hence the name flash flooding. It happens almost in an instant. As far as what we'll see over the course of this weekend, flooding easily the top priority when it comes to active severe conditions. Tornadic activity is low. Hail is low too. We certainly could get some strong winds out of these storms, and not to mention with a saturated ground, even a little wind could be enough to take down some older, weaker trees. But the flooding, easily the highest threat as we move through the weekend with more rain on the way. So let's track it. Let's take a look at where we'll find it as we work our way into our afternoon. We'll start you off at 8 o'clock this morning. And notice, not really seeing very much. We could certainly find some storms bubbling up out of seemingly nothing, but it will be once we get up to about 11 o'clock noon, where it's all systems go and the atmosphere is certainly ripe enough for these storms. They'll develop into our afternoon and hang with us and stay with us until the evening hours. They'll move from the north toward the southeast and into the south. And again, that's where we have certainly found rainfall this morning. And that could be an area to really clue in on for flash floodings, the south and the southeast. No flash flood watches in effect just yet, but we are certainly under the conditions that you would need for potential flash flooding, or at least some local high water issues. Sunday, more of the same, and Monday has the look of additional rounds of heavy rainfall. When you start seeing the yellows, the oranges popping up, and that does indicate some heavy rainfall. And again, 4 to 6 inches of rain. We add even a little bit on top of that, and things get messy. So, of course, if you do drive up to an area that is flooded or is washed out, see this right here, this sign? Turn around, don't drown. Can't tell you how many times that we have said that, and can't tell you how many times people have not listened. Do not attempt to drive through a flooded roadway, no matter if you drive a big truck, a smaller SUV. All it takes is 1 foot of water to get underneath your car and wash it out. You do not want to be stuck in your car when that happens. So don't even attempt to drive around a barricade. So those smaller creeks and streams, certainly keep an eye on them today and over the weekend. Flash flooding continues to remain a big, big priority. That is why we are under a first alert severe weather day, and that's why we will continue to keep you posted on potential flash flooding. Just an ugly look out there, Michelle. And we like to say it's like a sponge, right? The ground is like a sponge you squeeze underwater. If you try putting more water on top of it, it's not going to hold it anymore.
Right.
It has nowhere to go. That's what the ground is like this morning.
Yeah, and then we get that high water, and it's a good point you made. Even if you have a big truck, don't drive through.
No, not a good idea.
Safe.
Just don't chance it.
Okay, on to a good story. A Texas police officer and a little girl he saved now have an unbreakable bond between the two of them, and they mark their anniversary, and that anniversary they will never forget.
So it was a tea party with Corporal Patrick Ray,
look at
and he
that.
couldn't turn it down. He first met Bexley a year ago when she choked on a coin. His body camera was rolling as she got breathing again, and it's a day that I'm sure both of them won't ever forget.
It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard in my entire life.
Did he save your life?
Yes, he did.
This is a day that I will celebrate because I have her.
Oh my goodness.
Now, Corporal Ray expects he'll be hearing some teasing after these pictures of the tea party went viral, but he says he won't mind them one bit, and I think they'll go viral for all the right reasons.
Definitely. What a great story. I bet that mother is indebted to that police officer forever.
Yeah.
Good to hear. So your time now is 6:49 on this Saturday morning. We'll take a look at your money when we come back.
Big layoffs from one of the country's biggest companies and a warning from regulators that loans are getting riskier. I'm Brooke Silva-Braga in New York. Those stories and more coming up in your CBS Money Watch report.
Welcome back to WKYT this morning. One of the country's biggest companies is making some big changes with its workforce and a warning that getting a loan is risky business. Brooke Silva-Braga has the latest on your money.
Big banks are making riskier loans, according to federal regulators. A yearly review found a 13% increase in risky loans compared to the prior year. The biggest culprits, loans to heavily indebted companies. Stocks ended the month with another mixed session Friday, the Dow losing 24 and the Nasdaq gaining 7. Oil slumped toward bear market territory, down almost 20% since last month, leading to ExxonMobil's worst quarter since 1999. Profits of the oil giant fell by more than half in the second quarter. Microsoft is cutting 4% of its workforce. That's 4,700 jobs around the world. More than a third of those will be from its smartphone business, many of them former workers at Nokia, which Microsoft bought 2 years ago. And with airfares at record lows, don't wait to book that next trip. A survey of 2,000 baby boomers found that one of their biggest regrets is not traveling enough. The census-wide survey, yes, was commissioned by British Airways, but it confirms what other research has found. Older people often regret not traveling more when they could. And that's your Money Watch. For more, log on to CBSMoneyWatch.com. In New York, I'm Brooke Silva-Braga.
Welcome back to WKYT this morning. There are plenty of events going on around Central Kentucky today. Here's a look at some of what's taking place. You can help the University of Kentucky Police Department raise money for the Special Olympics Kentucky. Officers are hosting Cops on Donut Shops at the Krispy Kreme on Richmond Road this morning. They're actually already out there, and they are on the roof, Mike Lennon tells me. They get on the roof for this special event.
And when I was out there last year, they were covered, so it's certainly a good idea on a day like today when we are tracking additional rainfall. As we work our way through the weekend, flash flooding continues to remain the big threat. Right now, only looking at southeastern Kentucky seeing active weather. Then we'll take a bit of a break, but then things will once again get going as we head into the second half of our day today. The key to this won't be that the thunderstorms are widespread. It's that they'll bring a lot of rainfall in a short period of time. That's what you need for flash flooding. That's what we've seen every day, and that's what we will continue to watch here on Saturday.
So it looks like a lot of rain ahead this week.
Certainly a good idea that if you live near a small creek or a stream, to just keep an eye on it. It's not a guarantee it's going to come up and out of its banks, but probably a good idea to maybe take, if you have any children's toys or anything, away from it, just so they don't get washed away, potentially. Just keep an eye on it and be safe.
And as Mike said earlier, do not drive through those waters.
No, bad idea.
So nobody's more up to date than you to start your day. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be right back with more news.